Good afternoon. My name is Akin Oshuntoki. I am the chairman of the Programs Committee at the NBCC, the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to welcome us very warmly to today's event. On behalf of the President, Mr. Kayode Falowo, and indeed the entire chamber, I welcome you once again. Our theme this afternoon is Strategic Business Transformation, Playing to Win. We have with us Mr. Boye Olusanya, the Group Managing Director, CEO of Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC. Before I go too far, I'll ask that we observe the national anthems of Nigeria and Britain. Thank you very much. I'd like to share a couple of the guidelines for today's event. This webinar is being recorded on our YouTube channel. Also, if you have any comment, please use the chat icon. And if you have questions, kindly use the Q&A icon. It is now my honor to invite the President of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Kayode Falowo, to deliver his welcome address. Mr. Falowo, please.
Good afternoon, patrons. The host seems to have disabled me. My video cannot start. Can you please put me back on? Okay. Good afternoon, patrons, council members, and members of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted today to welcome everyone to this event themed Strategic Business Transformation, Playing to Win, which is a webinar organized by the Programs Committee of the Chamber under the chairmanship of Ake Oshintoki. The Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, as many of you know, is the foremost bilateral chamber in Nigeria and was established in 1977 to promote trade and investment between Nigeria and Britain. The NBCC is affiliated with the British Chambers of Commerce, which provides value beneficial access to a network of 53 chambers across the UK and 49 other international affiliates. I have the pleasure of using this webinar to invite companies who are not part of us to join us and have access to the tremendous benefits attributable to membership of the foremost bilateral chamber in Nigeria. The NBCC currently has about 350 top corporate organizations from all sectors of the economy in Nigeria and Britain as members. We encourage participants at this event who are interested in joining the chamber to commence the process by visiting our website and filling the membership form. Upon completion of the admission processes, you will have access to the tremendous membership benefits of the foremost bilateral chamber of commerce in Nigeria. The objectives of this event are in alignment with our cardinal mandate as a chamber and our commitment to upscale the value proposition for members and all our stakeholders. As you know, every company today needs to make a distinctive mark. Without an effective business strategy, a company does not have identifiable business objectives that can take it forward. This is a matter of not just building a brand, but a powerful identity in which the company's value proposition, core capabilities, customer experience, employee experience, and culture all reinforce one another. Companies with a fully coherent, differentiated strategic identity, the likes of Apple and Amazon, become iconic. Amazon, as an example, has a clear strategy to be the most customer-centric company by providing innovative solutions to make things easier, faster, and more cost-effective. They make an absolute commitment to operating as a purpose-driven business. This is why strategic transformation is the business leadership imperative of the 21st century that every organization must adopt. Given this background, I am delighted to welcome today's keynote speaker, my dear brother, Mr. Omoboyede Olusoya, Good Managing Director, Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC. Boye, as many of you know, is a highly experienced business leader with deep knowledge for creating long-term strategic and financial value across several industries, including telecommunications, finance, energy, and manufacturing. Before Boye's appointment as CEO of Flour Mills in January 2021, he was the Group Chief Operating Officer and a member of the executive management team. Prior to joining Flour Mills, Mr. Olusoya had served in several leadership positions, including Chief Business Transformation Officer at the Dangote Group, where he spearheaded the transformation of the group. Mr. Olusoya holds a BSc in Civil Engineering from the University of Lagos and 2 master's degrees in Environmental Engineering and Computer Science. I'm sure when many of you engage Boye one-on-one, this explains why he's such a smart person. 2 masters, Environmental Engineering and Computer Science, after a first degree in Civil Engineering. He obtained this at the University of Liverpool and University of Manchester, respectively. He has also attended several leadership and management programs at the Lagos Business School and the Harvard Business School. Our moderator for this webinar is Ms. Modupe Afolabi, Human Resource Director, Petroles Oil and Gas Limited. She's an electrical engineer with an MBA in IT management and over 25 years cross-functional experience in human resources, banking, technology, oil and gas, and the real estate industry. She's a proven team leader who successfully integrates strategic thinking with strong technical and analytical competencies. She possesses requisite skills to facilitate the positioning of an organization for long-term success by aligning business goals to the business issues, activities, and processes that drive them. She began her career at the Lagos Business School as a research assistant, after which she pursued a 10-year career in banking with Citibank and FCMB. Following this, she moved into the oil and gas industry, where she worked with Schlumberger and Sahara Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure you agree with me that the moderator and indeed our speaker, keynote speaker today, are people that this audience will learn a lot from. I wish to thank you for your attention, and I believe that at the end of this event, our speakers will have done justice to the topic. I therefore have the pleasure to invite today's keynote speaker, Mr. Omoboyede Olusanya, to kindly give his presentation. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Good afternoon, everybody, and first of all, my full appreciation to the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce for the honor of the invitation to come and take on this topic. First part of my disclaimer on the topic is I will not pretend that I am some business strategy guru, and my conversation with you today will revolve around, in particular, flour mills of Nigeria, a history of where it came from to where it is today, some comments about what we learned along that route, and a bit of clarity or a bit of definition of as to where we are going from a business transformation point of view. So what are we at FMN? We were created some 60 odd years ago, actually on the 29th of September, 1960. So we were just a few days ahead of Nigeria from a birth point of view. We have grown, so a significant amount of transformation has occurred in a business that started from a small single site mill, just milling flour, to what we are today, which is, in our view, the largest food and agro-allied group in Nigeria. And today, from that small mill, we have become a business that you can categorize into three distinct groups. A food business, where we play significantly in the food business to business space. We are also transforming ourselves largely into also a strong player in the food B2C space, some of which we'll talk about later. We have a strong participant in the sugar value chain, and we also deal with innovation in terms of new products that we use to support the food B2C space. We've built, to support the food business platform, a support services business that's into bagging. Most people would know it, Bako. We also own a port concession at the Lagos, at Apapa, which is ABTL. We have a transport business, which facilitates our supply chain. And there are certain other shared services functions that we have. We've also, from a backward integration point of view, and this will ally to our mantra of feeding the nation, where we intend to play along the value chain that exists from ground to your table at home. Grown businesses where we are now into oils and fats, where we produce edible oils, margarine, soya oil. We are players in the animal nutrition space, where we're probably the largest animal feed business in the country. We're a big aggregator of agricultural commodities, maize, soybean, sorghum. We are also strong now in the cassava starch value chain, where we produce gari, amongst other things, but also from farm to the table. And we are heavily into the agri-inputs business, where in order to support our transformation agenda, we have had to develop what we call extension services and feed inputs, which include crop protection, fertilizers, in order to ensure that the yields we get on the agricultural products that we're interested in are significant enough to support the value that the food business can get. Our revenues are generally in excess of 660 billion. We have to date just over 12,000 actually employees, and a listed entity with about 60,000 shareholders. So how have we gone about this transformation journey? What have we done? The big legacy that you will see from us is that from day one, there has been a strong conviction in Nigeria's potential. And that conviction is what continues to maintain us today to invest into the future. And I dare say any transformation strategy that does not revolve around a conviction and a belief in the environment in which you're operating, you will have a long shot at success. There's no doubt that Nigeria has been a difficult environment to operate in. But in the face of that adversity, in the face of what's called VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, we have found creative ways to transform the business and continue to be successful. And this has been driven by a consistent big picture scenario painting internally, where we take long shots, and those long shots have paid off for us. But those long shots have required us to be detailed in understanding the value chains that we're looking at and the value chains we're looking to play into. Some of the transformation that we have had to be involved in has revolved around sectors that we have gone into, largely because they have been constraints from a supply chain point of view. So sectors we have gone into to fix problems that we have seen within the supply chain area. And these are examples are transport, where for a long time, third-party transport was a difficult business in this part of the world. The good news, which we're seeing more of now, is that transport is becoming more and more solvable by third-party players, and maybe that will drive some of the elements you'll see us talking to our transformation into the future, whether there's a decision as to that being a key component of our strategic focus. We continue to place a strong emphasis on investment in backward integration. If we want to guarantee the manufacturing that we participate in, then a key element of that is a guarantee of the supply chain. And that supply chain involves accessibility to agricultural products. And those agricultural products, in order to guarantee access to them, we have to be involved in the production, farming, cultivation, development, yield enhancement of them. And we've done that. We've also consistently had a value proposition mindset where we've emphasized quality. The one big thing we've always been known for is manufacturing excellence. And from a business-to-business point of view, created a strong distribution network. People don't also associate us necessarily with innovation, which is wrong, because that has been a core cornerstone of the transformation that has been undertaken in the business. Semo, that is now a traditional bowl food, was first introduced by FMN and took a while to actually settle into the market and required some level of investment in driving that into the marketplace. We have, over time, invested in a significant amount of talent and trained a generation of millers and loomers. And the big lesson from that, as we'll discuss once again, is that we need to continue to invest in talent for the new generation of new for the new generation of people that we need in the new businesses to drive us onto the next level. And in all of this, we continue to forge a very close relationship with all our stakeholders and the communities in which we participate in. And those communities are widespread across the country. So what have we learned as errors that have been made? Because the biggest lessons we take from some of the things we do are the mistakes that we have made in the past. First one I would always point out is not the idea that there's a business that does not have a strategy. Everyone must have one. And it's not just to have one, but you must ensure that it is one that is well represented and well interpreted. It is about the things you decide to do, and a lot of it is also about the things you decide not to do, because that emphasizes that you are clear in your goals, ambitions, and objectives. We've learned that some of the big mistakes we've made are there are times, in particular on the backward integration plan that we had before, there were times when we should have said no and we said yes. And those mistakes, as we corrected them, you will see, have led to a significant growth in the agro-allied part of the business, which was stalled because of those. Never underestimate the challenge with entering any new industry or any new initiative. So in effect, sometimes, and we did this in particular in cement, which people won't remember, but we were in at one time. We overestimated our strength and our capability, but we were good enough to understand that we needed to get out of that particular industry, as we were not going to be a significant enough player in it. The inability to differentiate. Ultimately, the value proposition that we all are putting out in the marketplace must be clear and succinct. And if we can't differentiate, then it becomes very difficult for people to see and understand that value proposition. And last but not least, not having a link between the value chain and the value proposition. A lot of what we have embarked on in terms of the value chain, as I alluded to earlier, whether it's getting into bagging or into transportation, have been links that have come because our value proposition required us to be able to deliver a product of quality at a particular time and place. And we needed to be significant players in that, or else that value proposition would not be, we would not be able to meet that value proposition. The other things that have caught out that we've seen is people tend to do a follow me kind of strategies. Somebody else is doing it, let's all do it. It happens quite a bit, not just here. But ultimately, if you don't have the operating model to support what somebody else is doing, and you've not created significant skill set in that, you will not be able to effectively compete. Silos in traditional businesses like ours, and that has occurred over time as well. Businesses tend to become siloed because we create structures where businesses are independent of each other. And in those silos, people keep information and keep knowledge. And that inability to spread knowledge means, as a core skill set leaves an organization, the ability of the organization to continue to develop and enhance what it had before becomes limited. It's a common mistake. The inability in-house for us to challenge each other and to say, you know, because it is being done this way means that is how it must be done. That's another great fallacy that we've seen, and that we've seen has been a big barrier. The difficulty that we all envisage in operationalizing our strategy, where we create what I would allude to as theoretical strategies, which have no link with reality. anything that is defined as strategy must have executable plans alongside it, and those executionable plans must sit in a big basket of reality. We also, maybe because of the size of the country, tend to get fixated with size. I mean, even I started today with saying biggest food and agro-allied business, but in the end, size itself does not guarantee superior returns. As we are seeing in the marketplace today, in particular in food innovation, there are businesses that are coming up with good quality products that are manufacturing as well as bigger players, haven't yet created a big distribution network, but are primed with the quality and nature of innovation that they're involved in to become sustainably successful once they get that platform right. So those are key things that we've seen, and I would allude to as being big barriers in terms of getting transformation done in entities. Now, just a quick note on the reality of what has happened to all of us that we're still going through, where we can't avoid the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, which still sustains, and some of the lessons we learned about managing ourselves quickly through that crisis. And it's good to also look at that, because it is the pandemic is symptomatic of some kind of external shock, and a lot of times we do get these external shocks. I mean, 2015, 16. I'm sure there are people who remember what happened then. 2009. These are all external shocks that have similar, if not, or that have impacts on how we operate within at that time, if not necessarily being similar. What we've learned is the strength and quality of a balance sheet has been a big enabler. So in terms of disruption, we've been able to sustain because cash has become king, and we've been able to move a significant amount of short-term debt into long-term debt, and been able to get a significant amount or a significantly better gearing. Now, I'll also allude to that in itself is not just us. That has also been supported by environmental conditions, but we have put ourselves in a position to take advantage of those opportunities. There's a saying that goes that opportunity needs to meet skill set, and if skill set's not available, then you don't take advantage of that. What we've basically learned from our earlier transformation process that has made FMN what is today has been our continuous belief in supply chain resilience. The reason we ended up, as I would say, in transportation, in port logistics, also sustained us throughout this period, or has been sustaining us throughout this period rather than anything else. We have been able to switch as and when needed to, in particular, on critical supply chain to ensure a continuity of supply of raw materials, whether it be local or international. We have had to continually evolve business continuity plans. We work in a large factory system. Manufacturing, by the nature of it, does not fully entail all of its elements to work from home. So there has been the need within that working environment to continually create an environment that allows for us to be flexible enough to accommodate the protocols that are required to protect staff, but still have the required workforce to ensure that the volume of work that we can get done is sustained. All of that have led to a lot more look at our business model from a flexibility and an adaptability point of view. Now, ultimately, what's the end game in all this? Where you're creating strategy, you're using that strategy to transform the business. What do you want to get out of it? We always say maximizing shareholder value. And the key thing would be, how do you ascertain if there really is shareholder value? Today, we look at, basically for us, we're a listed entity, so the measurements tend to be stock appreciation, dividend payouts, and people will keep looking at return on invested capital. The one thing I will always allude to here, though, is these measures tend to be lagging measures. So you cannot wait until you see these measures before understanding whether your transformation drive is on the right path or not. There need to be KPIs that you're measuring, understanding what you're transforming from and into, and tracking those, because as I was reiterating, these are lagging indicators. And some of these indicators that we talk about also have environmental constraints with them, so they are relative to what other people in the market are doing and not just necessarily a measure of what you're doing. But what are the levers of this value creation? So we can't run away from a sound strategy supported by the right operating model. We will talk about highest possible standard of corporate governance, but rather than just corporate governance, in today's world, we'll talk about ESG, which is the environment, sustainability, and governance. And more, particularly for listed entities, sustainability is becoming just as key as corporate governance. And sustainability becomes a key element of the strategy that you need to drive your transformation. You have to, if you're going to continue to approach the capital markets, you have to be able to transform into an entity that is seen as being aware of the need to have a great sustainability agenda. People, you never run away from the fact that it is the biggest component of your ability to move any business forward. Reiterate, when opportunity meets skill set, growth becomes fantastic and at a faster rate. But for you to take advantage of that opportunity, you need to continue to invest and drive to get the right skill set. And last but not the least, we need to continue to recognize that we have not just investors or shareholders, even though we say maximize shareholder value, but we have significant stakeholders. And for us, stakeholders are a large part of the communities that we are involved with. And in effect, we have this mantra of feeding the nation. So the stakeholders are all of those that pertain and participate with us in that process. Now, from our perception, we've built our entire strategy around a key communication that we make to the public at large, and that's feeding the nation every day. I said it's simple, but for us it captures the essence of what we are about and what really our ultimate goal and intent is, which is from the ground to your table. We will ensure that you get the best quality products possible. So we've kept it simple, consistent. We communicate it as frequently as we can, and we are honest about what we try to do. Now, all of that feeds back down into, how in that entire value chain do we play the key roles that we want to play in it, and how do we continue to ensure that as a business, we have the ability to deliver to that promise. Now, I mentioned VUCA earlier, which is about the complexity, ambiguity, volatility, and uncertainty that we get in a changing world. And a lot of what I will say here relates to comments I had made earlier on the pandemic, which said is created a huge wave of uncertainty in its own. So I'll just highlight a couple of things we focus on. One, being agile, flexible, and curious. We keep seeking to get knowledge to understand what new things we should be looking at, what's coming around the table, what is it that we should be prepared for, and how. Bureaucracy. Institutions, as they develop, tend to become bureaucratic, and only if you take a very firm view to continually looking at ridding yourself of bureaucracy would you do that. It has been one of those bedrocks for established organizations that they've grown and become established in the ways and manners in which they work, and those have made them a bit too rigid. A transition towards a matrix or a project-based organization will continue to enhance the ability to deliver on strategy. And lastly, the big thing on technology, which is one of the major changes that we will continue to see in the way the world operates. I mean, for a lot of people, work from home a year and a half ago would have been, if you had put that as a thought on the table, people would have said it's not possible. But in a way, technology and its continuous evolution has meant that throughout this whole pandemic that we're seeing, we have continued to see an evolution in how people work. But technology is just not just in that. Technology is also affecting significantly route to market, distribution, manufacturing processes. And I alluded earlier to smaller businesses who now are able to deliver on manufacturing excellence, things that were the traditional home of big corporate institutions. But because of technology now, they're able to deliver as much on that. Packaging, branding, the use of technology to spread marketing, communication, and sales. So it becomes a key element. But the biggest element of it is the continuous accessibility to data and the use of that data to determine what ultimately it is that you're delivering against, what is it that the consumer wants, what's going on in the market. So it's a strong element of data analytics. Now, why transformation? It's always a big word because everywhere you go to, particularly successful institutions will say, why should I bother? Why change what is working? The reality is it's either an evolve or you will slowly die. You don't necessarily die suddenly, but you will slowly find that younger, more nimble entities will overtake you. And particularly with the changes that we're seeing, whether it's in technology or it's in innovation that's going on, all supported by environmental and geopolitical changes as well, then it becomes imperative that for you to stay ahead of the curve, you need to keep transforming. The reason that FMN has become as big as it is and continues to sustain as it is because it has taken that transformation drive as a necessary evil for it to tackle and continue to live with. It's also essential that we all adopt a proactive strategy rather than being defensive. Things that work today don't work tomorrow, and until we sit down and look at those processes consistently and figure out how to change them to work for tomorrow, whether it's tomorrow's customers, tomorrow's business, tomorrow's manufacturing, all of those things change. So what are we at FMN doing now on the transformation forward, on the transformation roadmap, and where are we trying to get to next? We are currently, as we've been doing in the past, rethinking our business model. As I said earlier, we've got distinct areas that we are operating in, on the food, on the agro side, and on support services, each with a different type of return on invested capital that the market will appreciate. So part of our focus is on how do we create a platform that allows the capital markets, investors, stakeholders to better understand each of those value chains and to better understand the return on capital we're getting in each of those value chains. So some level of restructuring that we're looking at in that regard. I've also said there's been a significant amount of progress made on certain support functions. And we're asking ourselves the question about, are we, as you look at that value chain or the entire value chain, and it's the question we ask ourselves on anything we're doing in that value chain, are we better equipped than somebody out there to play this role? Do we have the necessary skill set to play this role? And if we don't, is there somebody out there who can do it better than us, more sustainable, in a more sustainable way than us, and will give us the necessary service that we want? And as those questions are answered more and more in whether nay or yes, then we evolve to change the operating model as we see it. We're also clear in our mind that we are transforming into a major B2C player. And that means a significant development of our route to market. So it's whether it's from the distribution side, from the automation side, a significant investment from us in route to market. And that will drive, in particular, service delivery from us. And we continue to look at digital as a key player in that. Now, having said all this, there's no walking away from our strength as a B2B player, and no walking away from our strength and relationships with a significant amount of the value chain that supports that as well. We also are focused a lot more now on innovation. I mean, I mentioned SEMO before as something we have done. We're now looking at not just SEMO, but a significant number of SEMO type products, because that helps us to drive, in particular, a significant utilization of local content. And with our investment in supply chain, and in particular from the agro-allied side of it, as we guarantee that supply chain, so we can get better, and we guarantee whether it's yields and quality of crops, so we can guarantee the type of products that so we can guarantee the crops that we get, and we can give you better quality products. We will not shy away from continuing to focus on our people's potential. At one point in time, we were significant developers of millers and loomers. Today, we are also extending that into whether it's on extension services, whether it's on farming and how we support that institution, whether it's on research and development into seeds, fertilizers. Those we will continue to invest significantly in our people's potential to be able to once again support the organization as we meet the kind of opportunities that we're seeing. And last but not least, I had mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the various value chains we're in, that we're looking at streamlining the group architecture so that it is more understandable. The value chains come out more distinct, and in creating that streamlined architecture, it will support us as we look to explore growth beyond Nigeria's borders. It is clear to us that we will not just stay a Nigerian business. So that in a rough nutshell is more about what FMN has been doing previously and what we intend to do in the future. I hope that there are lessons and gains for people to take away from that in terms of how transformation has occurred for an entity like this. Thank you very much once again for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Olusoya, for that most insightful presentation. Just before we go into the question and answer session, we'll take a quick break to take an advert from our sponsors.
It's a happy feeling when receiving all of the love coming from family.
So many recipes, creating memories, every day and every night, bonding families.
Yeah. 60 years of joy, so much love, so much value, quality. Golden penny is you, golden penny is me, golden penny is at the heart of the family. Golden penny is you, golden penny is me, golden penny is at the heart of the family. Of the family.
Thank you very much once again, Mr. Olusoya. The questions have started to come in. It was a most insightful presentation. So please put your questions in the question and answer box. You talked about a number of things in your presentation, and you told us how Flour Mills has played to win. You talked about having a strategy, not just thinking you have a strategy, but actually having a strategy. You talked about communicating this strategy across the entire organization. You talked about focus, don't be distracted, knowing what you do and doing it well in every area that you play. Ensure that you're the best and that, you know, whatever it is you do it well. You talked about the need to be ready for change. Although you're a big organization, you talked about the necessity of being nimble so that you can respond to change, because change is constant. You talked about your investment in people. This is very important to me because I'm in HR. You talked about your investment in people. You talked about caring for your communities and the stakeholders, all your stakeholders across your entire organization. And of course, doing what you do well. So I'll take a few questions now. Somebody would like to know, how has Flour Mills differentiated itself from the competition? And how have you successfully competed with aggressive companies in the market, such as Olam? If you could respond to that, please.
Okay. The first thing is we've always pushed ourselves from a manufacturing excellence point of view. So for us, good quality products is what we would continue to be invested in. And we send the message out, and it has, I don't think there's I think the Golden Penny brand, in fact, not I think, I know the Golden Penny brand continues to be associated with top quality. And that's how we compete. Our view has always been, we will do the best quality products at the most affordable prices that exist. And our mantra will not change on that. So if people want to compete with us, then they should please come on. At the end of the day, they will also push us to be better at what we're doing. But that's our mantra. So we compete on quality and affordability.
Okay, thank you very much. There's also a question if there are any plans for Flour Mills to expand into other countries.
Yes, there are. I alluded to that. As we're looking at the restructuring we're doing, there's a distinct plan for us to become a Pan-African player. We realize that from a diversification point of view, it is what is next for Flour Mills. We're currently doing some studying as to the regions in particular where we have certain core skill sets that can be of use, whether it's supply chain, whether it's knowledge that give us some level of competitive advantage, because it's not just pick up a pen or pick up a pin and drop on a map and say we're going there. But yes, our intent is to be a Pan-African player. That's the next stage of our transformation.
Okay, thank you. We have another question on the role of governmental institutions in ensuring a safe ground for Nigerian businesses. I'm not quite clear, but perhaps you are, on what safe ground is. But what do you think of the role of the government is? Well, perhaps in ensuring a safe operating environment.
Well, the truth is, government's supposed to create an enabling environment. So it's what we always look forward to. For us, we're in the food industry, so you're dealing with a lot of standards, whether it's SON, NAFTA, those are key, because what you want is you want everybody to be competing on a quality platform with quality products meeting the right quality standards. So yes, I mean, that's one. Whether it's in infrastructure, government should be creating an enabling environment for all of us. It has been tough for government, and I'm sure I won't be the only one to say sometimes you think that your biggest risk in Nigeria is government, but the truth is that's the role they should play, and we continue to engage with them on how we see best for them to play that role and how we can support them in playing that role. They should just create an enabling environment. Once that is done, I think the rest of the organized private sector will do what is needed.
Thank you for that. Does Flour Mills have any future plans of promoting wheat production and increase in local content inclusion in its products?
Yes, and it's not just Flour Mills. We're part of the Flour Millers Association of Nigeria, which is today playing a very strong role in trying to develop seed, because it's not just, I mean, I'll come back to, on planting and looking for suitable yields for crops. You have to start from the type of quality of seed that you use, the areas that you put those seed into, the fertilizers, crop production that you support that with, irrigation that goes with that, and the guaranteed offtake that comes from players like us in that sector. So we're actually involved in that process today, where we're developing we've been now for the last 2-3 years in certain states in the north of the country, been testing out seeds that should give us better quality yields. Because for most people, I'm sure it's not news, but the environment in which you grow certain crops, wheat has been a difficult one in Nigeria because of the nature of the environment, has not necessarily been the kind of seeds that we've consistently had has not been good to grow in this environment. So we've had to invest in that kind of R&D to try and get the kind of quality seeds that will grow in this environment. And it's a push for us because we also want to drive local wheat production. So yes, we are involved with the Flour Millers Association of Nigeria. You'll continue to see information from us on the steps we've taken. There's been a big drive in terms of planting that was done in November last year. We hope to see a better harvest in the next 2-3 months, and we will take that forward even more.
Thank you very much. You just answered a question on the role of government, and you talked about enabling infrastructure. Power, that's the key part of that, and it's an area that we know that government can do much better. So can you give us an insight into your strategy for reduction in the cost of power?
That's always a difficult one because ultimately, a reduction in the cost of power for us doesn't just pertain to FMN, it pertains to the country at large. And the two key things that we would like to see, one is consistent availability, and then the second thing is pricing. Now, we are mostly on power from a manufacturing point of view. We are significant users of gas. And one of the things we continue to do is to engage with both the gas suppliers and the Nigerian gas manufacturing company, as well as the federal government, on an appropriate pricing level for gas in a growing environment like this. So, and we believe that if that is done, that not just promotes manufacturing, but also promotes investment in power as well. So our biggest engagement on power is on the gas side, which is where our biggest consumption is. And we continue to argue on, or let me not say argue, discuss and push for appropriate gas pricing that drives manufacturing. If we look at countries that have largely pushed processing, which is manufacturing, there has been a significant push in ensuring that pricing of products like gas is at a level that allows those industries to effectively compete. Now, it will also it becomes even more relevant as we talk about whether it's government on infrastructure or power, as we look at the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Because whatever we want to say, the ability for us to compete is not just determined by us, because there's a level of inherent internal efficiency each of us must get to, but there's also a level of external efficiency we must get to that means operating that alludes to the pricing that we will get from the operating environment that we're in. If we continue to have, whether it's power costs or transport costs that are high for various industries, then it becomes very difficult to become competitive in that landscape. So whilst it's on the one hand a good thing to be in a big trading zone, the downside is for us to compete effectively, then those things that drive those external pricing, and one of them is power and gas, we need to look at.
Okay, thank you very much. You actually answered the next question, which was on that. What's your take on acquisition as a growth fast tracker in the Nigerian context?
I think traditionally it hasn't been looked at, but I think more and more now, and I alluded to it earlier, when you look at the quality of newer startups that are coming in, and the quality of those companies, the quality of the products they're making, the quality of the packaging, the type of innovation they're involved in, means that they're actually ripe for acquisition. So yes, traditionally it has been difficult because you had businesses that were not necessarily optimal or were a bit suboptimal in the nature of how they're operating. But today, they are maybe not able to compete on size and scale, but they're able to compete on some of those basic things that you're looking for. So yes, it is going to become more and more a driver, but for us, it is actually a driver. So that we're looking at. So our growth is not just going to be organic, we're looking at inorganic growth as well.
Okay, thank you very much. How is Flour Mills positioning to play in the Africa Free Trade era?
Well, that's part of what what I was speaking of when I said we're looking at being a Pan-African player. So there are two aspects to that. The first part is the threat that comes to us in Nigeria as operating within an environment where part of what we talked about, our cost of operation is not just dependent on our internal efficiencies, it's dependent on certain external things. So we need to work hard on those to ensure that we're able to compete effectively with products that are coming into this market. So that's the threat. The opportunities, it also means we have certain knowledge and skill set that could make us compete effectively in other markets where, whether it's our supply chain knowledge, our manufacturing base, the skill set we've developed gives us some added competitive advantage. And that's what we're looking. So for us, so it's both. The ability for us to protect ourselves and operate even more effectively within Nigeria, and the ability for us to use the strengths that we've got to go and be more competitive in other climes where those opportunities create themselves. You cannot sniff at the size of the free trade, the trading zone that we're looking at. It's big. So that desire for us exists to go into it.
Okay, thank you. You talked about your ESG strategies. One key area of concern with big firms like yours around your sustainability issues is how to deal with your vendors and suppliers with respect to payments. How does Flour Mills handle this?
Well, we try to, well, let me not say we try. We actually have standard rules on payment terms, and we try and enforce those. Now, I'll also be open and say that we are one of those in the industry that are in a privileged position which will not last forever, and we're aware of that, where we are able to take payments from customers, for example, prior to releasing goods and products, and the same. Now, that when we look at what technology is doing, that is something that's going to fade away, and we're aware of that. Over time, that's going to fade away. So we are clear in our mind that in understanding that is going away, we have to be clear in the service charter that we're offering to people who are then going to be paying for these products and services. And the service charter that you have with the customer that's paying, whether it's you're selling or they're selling to you, whichever way it goes, those service charters then become an explicit part of your value proposition. So yes, today we consistently fulfill our obligations based on time. But as I said, we do have certain inherent advantages today, which will not last.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to take a few questions together now, and it's on export. What's the plan of Flour Mills? What is the plan of Flour Mills in terms of export, especially given government policy on exports? What's your opinion on the initiative and policies of government on non-oil exports, and how have you supported the export promotions drive of the federal government?
Okay. Thoughts on export, we are big believers in export, but once again, to export, we need to have a competitive advantage at that. Today, we do export soybean meal actually for out of the country as one of the things that we do. And we're looking at other export opportunities based on the commodities that we deal in, and also not just those. We're looking at export opportunities based on some of our finished products, particularly on the bagging side as well, where we think that we have good quality products that will sell in different clients. So yes, we are big on that, and today we do export a significant amount of SBM. In terms of government policy, we support fully government policy on export, but once again, it comes back to we can only be strong on things when we're competitive at them. And our view is always from a big manufacturing unit, we would rather export where there's value add rather than just export pure commodities, because then you're at the lowest end of the value chain. So how do we create an environment where with the value add we can put in, we're still competitive with international prices? On SPM, because of the nature of the European market, where today it wants to deal with non-genetically modified food and organic growth, Nigerian SBM has become quite appealing. So that's good for us, that's one. But there are many other things that we're looking at where we should be more competitive if we can get those other things right. But yes, we do believe strongly in export.
And I think this question is also related to that. How do you keep Nigerians in diaspora connected to your brand?
Well, today we do a lot in the digital space, one, so that way they're aware of what products we've got. Two, traditionally, most Nigerians who've left here have always at one point or the other touched a golden penny product. So there are not necessarily the volumes we would like to see. There are products that still go into diaspora for sale, but as we get to the point where pricing becomes competitive, then I think there'll be a big push from us to see a significant volume of that. But yes, we believe from a golden penny point of view, we have touched many people already. So they will continue to, whether it's through their relatives coming, get good quality products.
Okay, thank you. If you were asked to coin a business purpose statement for flour mills, what would that be?
Well, I think it's in what we've said already, to ensure that we're able to, when feeding the nation, do it in a qualitative and affordable way.
Okay, thank you. You talked about growth and transformation, and you said these are achieved when opportunities meet appropriate skill sets. How does a company desiring transformation retain top talents in the face of acute competition?
Well, it matters the vision that or the big picture that we paint. If we are clear and articulate in the strategy we're evolving and the vision of where we're going, then there will be loads of talent who will want to stay on that boat. But we have to be able to articulate clearly that message to the workforce. And whilst articulating it is one leg of it, the other part is we also have to invest in supporting, training, and developing them. Because you can articulate a vision that almost certainly tells people that they will not have work, because the nature of what you are moving into requires a different type of skill set. So whilst articulating it, you are also quite aggressively pursuing those training programs that is needed to ensure that they are as equipped as anybody to compete for those roles.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us a bit about your CSR policy?
Well, yes. I mean, we are present in a significant amount of communities across the country. So from our point of view, even just being present in those communities means to enhance our relationships with those communities, we continue to invest in things that support those communities. And likely we invest in whether it's outgrower schemes to ensure that farms around those areas have access to being able to develop themselves with us giving them products and guaranteeing to take off their products, investing in health services for those areas so that whether it's in water services and other means of giving them a good quality of life, then yes. Allied to that, we're also significant investors in education because we continue to drive training and development from a CSR point of view. We have created in certain institutions R&D centers to evolve, in particular on baking solutions, baking innovations. So we continue to drive from a training and development point of view. Those are the key areas that we participate in.
Thank you. The next questions are on the security situation in the country and how that's affecting your backward integration. With the current challenges, would you consider backward integration a good strategy for organizations that are currently thinking in that direction, given the present situation?
Well, yeah, present situation is difficult, but as I also said in the speech, Nigeria has been through a lot of difficulties over the last 60 years, and people have continued to find a way to make it work. Will there be a perfect time for us to be involved in backward integration? No, there won't be. Now, is this time difficult? Yes, but we're also getting good support from state governments, the federal government itself, in trying to ensure that we get access to the areas that we need to get access to. It's not easy, but I would say now is as good a time as ever. And the reality for all of us, as we continue to see the difficulties on supply chain that occurred with the pandemic, is continuous investment in, and I don't look at it as just, we call it backward integration, but it's in supply chain. The continuous investment in ensuring that the supply chain works locally it can't be avoided.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us how Flour Mills is leveraging emerging technologies for operational efficiency? considering that more nimble and agile competitors will be leveraging this as a competing tool? How are you doing it more effectively than competition?
Well, I don't know. You can never say more effectively than competition because you don't see more competition, but you can do it as effectively as you think you should do it. So a couple of things internally, from a manufacturing point of view, in terms of trying to manage your efficiencies, trying to manage your production process, we continue to invest in significant technology that drives that. So if we look at our manufacturing plants, we continue to invest in newer technology that gives better quality outputs. Internally, from a process point of view, we're totally invested in using technology as a driver for our processes internally, so that basically our ability to service, whether it's internal or external customers, is enhanced by the speed and quality, most importantly, of information that we have available. And that leads me to the biggest driver we're invested in, which is our continuous access to data and the analytics of those data to enable us make better, more consistent decisions.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you tell us how Flour Mills is incorporating occupational health, safety, and environment excellence in its transformation agenda as the key sustainability driver and culture mindset change?
Well, we're in a manufacturing environment, so for us, HSC is actually a way of life, and it's not something we take for granted. In the earlier conversation internally, we as a management team had come up with a statement that somebody actually losing their fingernail was one fingernail too much. So there's a drive for us to continue to enhance HSC, whether it's training, development, a continuous ability to reinforce the message that health and safety is essential to us. So, and we take it extremely seriously, and it's a big KPI amongst each of the business unit leaders that we've got.
Thank you. I'm going to ask this question, which I think you might have answered already, but business digitalization has become non-negotiable, considering that the learning curve involved in grooming new hands. How are you dealing with the loss of highly skilled and competent IT staff who seek better opportunities outside the country? I guess I would expand that question and say not just IT staff generally. There's a lot of what I think is known as brain drain. How are you dealing with that? How are you minimizing business disruption as a result of that?
Well, you will, like any industry in Nigeria, where for a lot of people there's still this desire for people to go abroad, whether it's for training, and you can't stop that element of it. But we look at ourselves from, and I probably mentioned it but didn't go into details on it, from a CSR point of view, that we have two roles to play. We have a role to play from the training and development of Nigerians as a whole, and we have a role to play from training and development of FMN staff. So we're invested in training, in particular, creating an academic structure now that will continue to produce a training pipeline for us of people that are not just for FMN, but for the wider community as a whole. And our view is, until you create that talent pipeline, then this will continue to be an issue for all of us. And if each of us in our own various areas, whether as we do it, as we launch the academy now in manufacturing and chase, whether it's manufacturing excellence, power, looming, whatever it is that we have, as we produce that talent and other people do the same thing, then there's a big skill set that continues to be available to us.
Thank you. Are you considering the use of other relatively unpopular Nigerian-grown grains for productions of cereals and flour?
Well, I wouldn't say unpopular, but innovation means, so I don't know what the question means by unpopular, but innovation means the use for us, in particular, local products. So anything that we see that will give the necessary health ingredients, be affordable for our consumer base, we will use. It's not just about taking a grain; it must have health and economic value to the wider community. So we continue to test and look at every single crop that is produced locally to see where we can get that.
Thank you. How can a business such as yours react to changes in customer behavior in relation to your own business goals and expectations?
Well, the reaction comes from, once again, being agile and nimble inside. So to react, first you have to be able to get access to the information on what the customer, those desires from the customer. You create the channel for that kind of engagement. And you're agile and nimble inside where you're continuously challenging your status quo. So you get that data and you look at it and say, okay, this means something has to change. And then how do we change it? And you then go into executing on that. But that interface is understand, get feedback from the customer, use your in-house set up systems, processes to deal with that. And that's how we're dealing with it.
Thank you. Another question back to government. How is flour mills influencing the government with regards to their Papa gridlock?
I wish we could influence them even more. But it's a constant engagement. We give government our ideas, and in certain cases, as we announced, I think over a year ago, we're involved in one of the government road infrastructure projects in terms of fixing some part of the Agbara road. So we are interested in whatever we can do to support government. We give them ideas based on what we see, and continue to look at opportunities for us to also aggressively play a role in fixing the problem. It is to our benefit just as well. I mean, if we can get trucks out of Apapa in 30 minutes as opposed to 6 to 12 hours, then the gains we pass straight on to our stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. You stated that flour mill seeks to have first-class route to market ahead of its competitors. How exactly have you executed this, and what is the future prognosis?
Well, I said that's what we are now working aggressively on. So that we have executed it, I didn't say we have not executed that. That's the next stage, because that's the biggest platform for growth on our B2C business.
Okay, thank you. How can a business such as yours sustain growth without losing its market share and product quality, considering market economic fluctuation? I hope that question is clear.
I would say that's what we've just discussed. You have to continue to transform yourself and look at what opportunities exist. You take the entire value chain you're in. You look at where your strengths are in that value chain and where your weaknesses are. And you decide, because those also change. Some things that are your strength become your weaknesses, some things that are your weaknesses become your strength. Or there's also the availability to buy, borrow, beg, whatever it is to get some element on that value chain. And a continuous assessment of that, whilst also doing a 360-degree on your environment to know what continues to be relevant to the stakeholder out there.
Okay, thank you. How has the agro-allied division of flour mills impacted or helped the Nigerian government in achieving the set goal on transforming the agricultural sector of the economy?
Well, first, I don't think anybody has declared victory that the Nigerian government has achieved its set goal, and I wouldn't say so. And no one of us will sit back and say we have all achieved the set goal. We're on the road, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So how are we supporting them? We're significant players in the sugar value chain. We have a big plantation in Sunti. We're building another, we're developing another 10,000 over hectares in Nasarawa for sugar. We're together with a couple of other players, developing agri-palm investments in Edo State. We continue to invest in significant growth of the cassava value chain in around Ososa in Ogun State. I also mentioned where with FMAN, we are playing a significant role in three states in the north in particular in terms of wheat development, whilst also liaising with the Lake Chad Basin Development Agency and looking at how to push development in the Borno axis of it. These are only a couple of the things that we're doing. And as we do each one of these, that's another big chunk into getting the government's agricultural policy right. So it's not about somebody declaring victory today. No, we haven't got there yet. But every step along the way it creates a better environment for the country. And I say the biggest thing we'll continue to invest in is in the input side of the business as well, where it's not just we've driven agriculture here, or let me put it this way, we've driven farming here and not agriculture. And continually, we create farmers who are poor. We need to not just create farming, we need to create economic farming where, because of the nature of whether it's seeds that they get, which were significantly invested in, whether it's crop protection or fertilizer, which we're also significantly invested in, those support them in getting suitable yields. As those yields become better for the farmers, it becomes more, the farmers get more economically empowered. As they get more economically empowered, the size of land they plant, the kind of products they produce become larger. And so we also win in that regard. So let's not underestimate what has been done, but nobody is declaring that we have achieved what the government said.
Thank you very much. I'll just take a last question. The last question. What partnership projects is Flour Mills involved in with local farmers, growers, ranchers as stakeholders within their value chain? And how are you ensuring fair trade in these relationships?
Well, we do a significant amount of outgrower schemes where we support the farmers with product inputs before they harvest, support them even in harvesting, and guarantee them an offtake. And as far as we're concerned, we benchmark the economic value of whatever we're off-taking from them against market pricing, so that there's nobody there who's no one who the farmer thinks is taking them for a ride. And ultimately, if the farmer believes that you are not giving him economic value, he will find a way to sell it to somebody else. So it's also in our interest to ensure that we're giving him a fair and economic value on what he's doing.
So thank you very much for responding to all those questions. I hope that all those that asked the questions are satisfied. I would now hand over back to Nigerian NBCC to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. For me, it's a great pleasure to give this vote of thanks. First of all, to thank people that I take to be my brother and sister, and later I'll come to a unique thing that is common to all of us. So first of all, let me thank Mr. Boye Olusoya, the Group Managing Director of Flour Mills of Nigeria, PLC. I think I must thank you for your presentation. You brought to bear your experience across various industries, telecoms, finance, manufacturing, and you're bringing that experience to bear in Flour Mills. Clearly, there is no better person that can come to talk to us about strategic business transformation, because I'm also very much aware of what you have done prior to joining Flour Mills. So it's a thank you for honoring our invitation. Looking forward to having you on one of our platforms in the future. Also to thank my dear sister, Dukwe Afolabi, the HR Director of Petrolex Oil and Gas. Like I said, I don't know whether it is by accident or by design that all the speakers today all share an engineering background, starting from our president, Mr. Kaide Falo. You're also an engineer who also started coming in from finance into oil and gas. So thank you for anchoring the question and answer session. And thank you for moderating the event. To our exclusive partners, Flour Mills of Nigeria, thank you for your sponsorship, and also to thank you for the success in feeding the nation. Your brand is so well known that everybody here certainly must have come across one of your products in one way or the other. So a big thank you for being part of us and for supporting this particular program. To our patrons and council members, thanks for your natural support. I can see quite a number of you are on the program. I really want to thank you for your continuous support of the chamber and the programs that we have put in place. Finally, to the attendees, you are the reason why we put this together. I'm sure you have found this to be quite interesting and quite educative. There is no business today that is not talking about how do you transform yourself, how do you take advantage of what is going on. And I'm sure you have learned a few things from our guest speaker. For me in particular, there are a number of things I must highlight. Sometimes doing nothing can be a strategy. Doing nothing can be a strategy. It's not just about following the crowd. Sometimes sitting back and studying and seeing what is happening can also be a strategy. You must have a big picture view size is not everything. And you must have enough flexibility within your business model to ensure that when unforeseen circumstances turn up like we have this year, you can clearly take advantage and move forward. And more especially, you must learn from your failures. I think you learn more for things that have failed than from your successes. So it's left to me now to thank the programs committee and the secretariat for coming up with this webinar. Like I said, at this point in time, beginning of the year, everybody must be looking at his business and be asking yourself, what do I do? How do I take advantage of what is coming up? Especially in a year that we've also signed up to the free trade agreement. So we do expect everybody now to be having a strategy that is not just about Nigeria, but also how do I take advantage of the opportunities in the larger market of Africa. So on that basis, I'll go to our upcoming programs. It's a very busy month coming up for us at Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. We have a Finance Act 2020 key changes and implications that has been anchored by our professional services group that is coming up on the 5th of March at 12 p.m. And we have two speakers, Mr. Tawo Yedele, who is head of fiscal policy partner at PwC, and Mr. Theophilus Emua, who is the managing partner of ALEX. So we'll have that coming up on the 5th of March. It's for you now to understand what's coming up in the Finance Act 2020 and the key changes and implementation and its implications. We have our Trade and Investment Expo coming up on Thursday, March 11 at 11 a.m. Again, the theme of the expo is unlocking the future of Anglo-Nigeria trade. So again, it's for us to see how we can lock on to the opportunities that we have between here and United Kingdom. So again, it's unlocking the future of Anglo-Nigeria trade. Again, we have very great speakers coming up to speak to us. Again, it's to let people know there's a big push coming from UK in trying to build on the business that we have between Nigeria and the UK, and to see the opportunities that Nigerian businesses can take advantage of. And finally, coming up on the 18th of March, we have the co-founder and chairman of African Capital Alliance, the former Federal Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Oke Enelama, coming up and is our guest speaker. And he'll be talking about managing private equity entrepreneur relationship, the key imperatives. I think that is quite key. As our businesses are growing, as our businesses are attracting private equity, it's good to not get a big player in that space to come and talk to us about how do you manage the relationship between your private equity investors that are coming in and the entrepreneur that have started that particular business. And we all know you do need finance to grow. And in most cases, most of us are looking at private equity. So come in and join Dr. Oke Enelama as it expands on the relationship between the private equity investor and the entrepreneur, and how do you manage that relationship. I think it is very key, and that is very useful for all of us. If you're interested in joining the chamber, as our president in his opening remarks did extend an invitation to all of us, please contact Osereme Okwe, our membership officer, and his details is on screen for everybody. And you can please follow us on social media. We are quite active on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and especially on our YouTube channels. So again, I must thank everybody for being part of this very interesting webinar, Strategic Business Transformation, Playing to Win, that was sponsored by Flour Mills of Nigeria, and which we also had the Group Managing Director, Mr. Boye Olusoya, anchoring. So it's really to thank everybody for joining us, and looking forward to welcoming you to our future programs. Thank you very much.